But no, I did everything that I just did. But I did all the outside work.
I remember Aunt May used to tell the story that I think you and her would walk to the coal mine to bring Papa his lunch or his coffee.
Aunt May hardly came with you ever. I went alone. I was 5 years. I was 5 or 6 years old.
So,
I used to walk on the snow down the railroad tracks because I was the only one that would get up to do it for my dad.
Now,
when Marianne got older, they used to have Marianne come with me.
Now, were you and Aunt Mella really close, almost like twin sisters in terms of, because you were the first two born?
Yeah.
So did she pal around with you a lot when you were little, or were you guys kind of different?
We were different. She was a sweater girl. She was Miss Popular. She was Miss Female. She did everything. I was tomboy.
Right.
And so she, we went to school. I caught up with her in the 3rd grade because she used to stay home to help Mama have babies every morning.
Yeah.
And she was home and lost a lot of school, so I caught up with her in the 3rd grade. And we were just opposites all the time.
Now, Aunt Mella told me she was 16, I think she said, when they moved to California. So that would have meant you were how old, 14?
I'm 18 months younger than her. I was, I think, 14 or 15.
Well, now, back in Cokedale, Aunt May used to talk about, too, with the train, the coal, the train would come and you guys would go pick up the droppings, the coal droppings.
A lot of times we didn't have coal in our sheds, and we needed coal to keep warm in the winter, so we'd pick all the little pieces that fell off the boxcars as they bumped and hooked together and moved on and brought the coke to the ovens.
Excellent.
And then we'd steal it on the coke ovens.
Yeah.
That's just my opening act.
So we used to pick
What do you get
but
for the
also, we used to have those engineers who used to go by.
And they would throw candies or
throw
give you...
candy and gum at us.
We used
to run out there. We used to hop those cars sometimes. I did.
No, this one's better.
Okay.
Really?
When they were running.
You want it a little stronger?
They ran slow in that area.
I was going to say, them train must have gone slow.
Yeah, we used to be able to hop it and ride in the train.
Josie, get something to drink?
I'm going to have anything. It doesn't matter.
You want water? You want a drink?
She likes a Diet Coke.
Diet Coke coming up.
Thank you, honey. Yeah, but those were days that my sisters, none of them knew what I did. I did all the stuff that they wouldn't do. I did the walking to the coke ovens and give my dad his lunch pails and his stuff. All it was coffee and bread.
Yeah. Now, the house, I call it a house that you guys lived in. I mean, what was it? Was it like a wooden hut, like a shack?
No,
or was it like an adobe?
No, adobe, no nothing. It was a big cement house.
A cement house?
We were on cement blocks. Because when the flood came, we were way above the flood.
How you doing, baby?
And it was 2-story.
Really?
8 rooms, no bathrooms.
I never heard it was 2-story.
Oh, yeah. Upstairs we had onions and all Daddy's wine barrels.
But you didn't live up there.
Those 4 rooms upstairs were all empty.
Okay.
We used to play house in them, and Daddy used to dry his onions in there in the winter.
I'll be darned.
I'd lay them all over one of the floors. You know, we'd grow onions and stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd lay there. In one room had all his wine barrels and wine. We got drunk one time.
Where'd you guys get the grapes to make wine?
Every year, a man came around hauling grapes, and my dad would buy a ton.
What else we got?
And then we'd get press. We got somebody had pressers that my dad used.
Yeah.
And he used to make his own wine.
Well, I heard that he made wine in L.A. too. And all the brother-in-laws would take turns at the crank.
And in L.A., we dug a cellar. Did you know that?
Well, Aunt Mella said Uncle Louie and Grandpa dug the cellar.
They dug the cellar where they lived over there on the Sitchell.
Yeah.
There was a big cellar underneath that old house. They dug it and they had 2 barrels. I think Dad did his wine there.
Yeah.
He used to have a wine pressed in San Sitchell too.
My mom said I remember she got drunk on that wine one year. Her and her girlfriend.
Oh, Marianne and I. My little sisters one time upstairs and when we were kids. We tried.
I don't remember.
You weren't even with us. You weren't even born. But Marianne and I were up there and we were drinking out of the spigot. We got drunk. We got really drunk. We didn't know we were drunk, but we were drunk. We were silly.
Yeah.
We drank when Daddy was playing cards on Friday. I was 13 years old. I'll never forget it.
That's how in California.
Yeah, here.
I'm talking about Colorado.
I went in the cellar. You know, Daddy made his wine.
Yeah.
And I was showing off in front of Barbara and Gracie. I went down there and I said, I put my mouth underneath and I poured the thing. Josie, I got so frickin' sick. I wouldn't touch wine, and Daddy got so mad at me, I threw up. I mean, that dago red, let me tell you. And I'm drinking it out of that thing. I thought I was showing off. I was big shit. Let me tell you.
We drank it.
I
Ours
didn't
was
drink
boiling.
wine for years, and my dad had wine on the table every single night, and he wanted us kids to drink
A little bit.
wine.
A little
We'd
bit.
have little glasses that big. And he says, you drink wine with your meal, and you'll always be healthy. You don't overdrink. You just drink with your meal. And I wouldn't touch it, because I was anemic. I used to
But that
hemorrhage
probably
through my
would have
nose.
been good for you, buddy.
I wouldn't touch it after I got sick. Are you kidding? That was the worst
Now-
high I ever had.
I remember you used to mention too, like you remember when Junior was born.
Oh, yeah.
Now, was Junior born after Aunt May or after Aunt Joanne?
Before Aunt Ro.
He was born after Aunt Joanne. Rosalie came after him.
Rosalie was born when he was alive.
He used to rock roll when
Really?
she'd cry. He'd shake the cradle. He'd shake her. And he was so happy he'd sing. His song that he sang was,
Italian.
oh, I forget what he used to sing.
Something like that.
I can't remember the name he used to sing. But it was a song I always remember because I loved him so much.
You said he looked just like Doug.
He did. He looked like you.
That's who he looked like. He
looked
said,
like
just
you.
like Doug.
And the night that he got sick, Joanne was touching all the toys. He was breaking them all apart that night. His toys, and Joanne touched one, and he hit her with his hammer on top of that, and the blood just squirted out of her head.
Jeez.
Just squirted out of her head. We thought he hit her because she had touched his thing, and he really hit her hard with that hammer because it just squirted. It came out like a faucet
Wow.
on the top of her head.
Wow.
So they rushed her to the doctor right away and got it
Stitches
taken.
or whatever. Yeah.
But he got a whipping that night. He got sick that night. He got sick, and
Gee.
all his stuff was left broken when he left.
Sure.
That was such a sad thing.
You might need more aid.
So you probably remember when Aunt Joanne was born, and when Aunt Ro was born, and when my mom was
Actually,
born.
I don't remember when they were born because every time there was a birth, we were sent to people.
Oh, really?
We were sent to different people in different areas.
Yeah.
And they would tell us that the stork was coming.
Yeah.
And that we had to go stay somewhere until the baby was born, and we would. One time it was at my one of my
It was so funny. Josh said I walked in the door.
They know
he come
you.
running.
They
know you.
Huh, buddy?
They know you. My dogs don't forget. They know you. They
don't.
never forget you.
Now, who in the family lived anywhere near Cokedale? I mean, what was the nearest town? Trinidad?
Trinidad was the closest.
And is that where Uncle Joe was?
Uncle Joe was in Trinidad. All our relatives were in Trinidad. But when Betty, your mother, was born, the one that came out was Aunt Vicky and my grandma to deliver your mother. And I saw her, and she had dark hair down to here, dark hair. She was the cutest little thing there ever was. I was so happy to see my little sister. They had her by the stove in the kitchen because we didn't have hot running water. They had to run boiled water and everything for her. And they were cleaning her, and I was watching them clean her.
Now, you also, I remember you talking
talking
years ago about Grandma.
Seeing you travel all
And Grandma would she would tame the snakes.
Yeah,
She'd put her hair.
twist it in her mouth a certain way. And the water snake, she'd make them curl up on the ground.
Linda wants you to
But
fry
she'd
the
snake.
calamari.
All right, hold on.
Do you want me to do it?
Huh?
Do you want me to help?
She's gotta
And
do
did
it.
you spend a lot of time with Grandma in the
She just want
garden?
an interview.
And then, you know what happened? My mother sent me to live with my grandmother for a year and a half.
Was it a
My
year and a
sisters
half?
are all got distant from me. A lot of things they resented about me, but my mother let me go stay there because they always picked on me, and they felt I picked on them, and I did to a degree. Mainly Joanne was the worst. As the one. Mary and I were buddies.
I mean, you'd never know it today.
Mel and I got into it because Mel used to put her knuckles on her head
Wait a minute.
and make my head hurt so much until one day I got
Yeah.
tired and I just fought back, and she never touched me again after that.
What? No, what?
But with Joanne was just a
would wait till you
crybaby.
get it all
All she
done.
ever did is cry. All my whippings were because Joanne would blame me for something. And a lot of times it wasn't, but I made it happen. When she
Yeah,
blamed me of it,
yeah.
I went and did it later. Whatever she blamed me for, she got paid back for it.
Yeah.
I deserved it after the fact. Yeah, I did. She was a pain. But
Well, now when you guys moved to California, and you were maybe 14, 15.
I was about that age.
When did you get your high school diploma? Did you finish school right away, or did you go get a job right away?
I went to school, but I didn't. I finished the 11th grade. I came from Holy Trinity. I went to the 10th grade. And then I went to the 11th grade, and then I quit because we were so poor, Dad.
Yeah.
And I wanted to help my dad and mother financially. And so I went I started working after school at Newberry's downtown LA. I started 35 cents an hour. And my check over the week, I'd go every night on the streetcar.
Yeah.
Every night. I don't know if you know. Do you remember streetcars?
They were gone before I came around, but I know of them.
There was a streetcar I took every day from school and worked at Newberry's behind the fountain. And I made 35 cents an hour. And I'd make, at the end of a week, they'd give me a little envelope with all the change in it and the money. It was $21. It came to $21 with my 35 cents an hour. And I gave my dad the 20, and I kept the one for the week.
That was going to be my next question. How much of it did you have to give Papa?
I didn't have to. I just gave it.
Yeah.
Just like when I was working at Owens, Illinois. I used to make $98. I'd give my dad the biggest part, and I'd keep maybe 20.
Now, isn't that where Aunt Red worked? Is that where you met Aunt Red?
I met Aunt Red there. I met all the sales there too. Teresa, all the Froyo girls. She was a Morrow.
But you must mean Aunt
and also
Aunt Marie.
None of them worked there.
No, the ones I met were the Morrows.
Oh yeah.
The Morrow family.
So that's how Uncle Louie maybe helped come in the picture.
You know that. One of the Morrows is my same age, on my same birthday.
I'll be done.
Froyo.
Huh.
Yeah, those girls, you know who else worked? The one with that Mala? The niece that Mala has up there? Her mother worked there. Louise worked there. That's how I met Louise. That's how I met Jenny. I met all of the Morrows on that side. We all worked at Owens, Illinois. And we all started with 89 cents an hour there.
That's where Red worked, too.
And that's where I met Red.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So Aunt Red was part of the family from way back.
I was little.
Like Aunt Mike.
So Aunt Red was in the family before.
Yeah, but she was, that's what I say, but we had accepted
Aunt Red was in the family before Uncle Jim was. It sounds like.
Aunt Red was with me through a lot of stuff, yeah. And I met Aunt Red, and when I was a kid, I was 16 years old when I met Aunt Red.
Bob Lang there too, right?
Huh?
Didn't you meet Bob Lang there?
At Owens, Illinois Glass Company, yeah.
Yes, her first husband.
Yeah. I wasn't going to ask you much about him, but how long did you know him? I know you were married for only like 6 months.
Oh, it maybe lasted long, but I was only with him 7 days.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
I didn't know it was even that. Oh, I thought it was like 6 months.
Oh no, after
when you guys got that accident.
That's when we were trying to get back together because of the church.
Just 7 days.
But Beth, that was only another week after that. And that was it. I mean, it didn't last.
Well, how long after Bob, and I know you got an annulment and all that, but how long after your relationship with him was it until you met Uncle Jim? And how did you meet Uncle Jim?
Dancing. I went from Owens, Illinois. I went to a dance that we had. A dance.
They used to all go dancing.
We had dance nights and we had costume nights. Louis and Mellon went to one of them once. He was.
Is it?
And I met him dancing at the thing, and I didn't like him. I didn't like what he looked like. But I met him before the dance.
Uh-huh.
Well, I met him at the dance, but then I met him before that, and he looked grubby. He had a beard, and he was slouched in an ugly little car. I think it was a little Volkswagen.
Now this would have been in the early 50s sometime.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was. We married in 52. Right now, we'd be married 60 years if he was living.
So was that when he still lived on down in Compton on that address?
They lived out that way in that area.
When I asked you about the other day? Yeah, that's where he was living.
He lived a long time in that area, Larry. Yeah. He lived a lot in Compton. He did a lot of. He knew Duke Snyder as a buddy. They went to school together. He always told me that every time Duke Snyder was playing.
Yeah.
Oh, I went to school with him. I said, why didn't you go be a baseball player? Yeah, he still wanted to be a baseball.
Now, when you guys got married at the courthouse, right?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, she got married.
Yes, I did, to Jim at the courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul Ponte was there.
I don't remember.
And we took Paul with us. It was a Sunday.
I don't remember that wedding.
No, you don't, because you weren't there. But Paul Ponzi's there. Joanne was there. Joanne was there. And when when that guy, starts saying, well, let's bless this marriage. And he says, our Father, Paul Ponzi says, who art in heaven, hallowed be I laughed. We all laughed. At my wedding, we had a big laugh because Aunt Red was my maid of honor.
And Uncle Paul was the best man?
No.
Or
Jim's little brother was the best man.
Oh, I don't think I ever met him.
And he died. He died long ago. He used to have seizures. When he was a kid, he got touched a fire or something. Ended up, he always had seizures. He died around, I guess he was close to, when he died, I guess he was in his 50s.
Now, after you guys got married, where did you live? Where did you live before you actually moved to Linwood?
Oh, I lived across the street from my mother. Where I had that place. I had rented that place.
You want me to do something, Linda?
Like where the corner market was, where the corner store was, above the market?
Which one came?
That was with the Virgilio's place.
Oh, okay.
It was their place, yeah, and I lived upstairs.
So that's where Debbie was born? You never lived in the front houses, in the duplex?
I did, with Aunt Red.
Oh, with Aunt Red.
On that left side where the lady with all the kids is.
Oh, yeah.
Next to Chipotle.
Yeah.
I lived there with Aunt Red. Aunt Red was paying rent there for my mother and dad.
And that's where Mom Savoy lived on the other one, right?
And Mom Savoy lived on the other side, but then Mom Savoy moved and
yeah.
moved,
So then
you know who else lived there? Your relatives.
Aunt Marie lived there, and Aunt Mel and Uncle Louie lived there. My parents lived there.
So did, I think your mother and dad lived there.
So from that flat above from the D. Virgilio's place, then you moved to Linwood.
Do it over here?
From there.
Yeah.
Is it over here, Lynn?
When I finally did move and got married to Jim, we found a place, and it all happened. Doug, I'd gotten sick, and all my insurance money that I got from getting sick, I forget what it was I got sick about. I think it was after I had my baby. Anyway, I had worked long enough where I had insurance. And all the insurance came up to $900.
That was a lot of money back then.
That was a lot of money. And we were looking for a house. And we found this one in Linwood. And we gave that as a down payment. My payments were only $81 a month. And paid $11,000 for that house. That I sold for $70.
Yeah. And Debbie ended up living in that house.
Yeah.
Right? Because you kept that house for many years.
Well, I kept it, and we sold it when she bought the house in Los Alamitos.
Right.
I gave her all the money for it.
Right.
Yeah, I like it.
Now, Aunt Red never lived in that house, though. Aunt Red had a different house.
When we lived there on Platte Avenue, I built the apartment, and that's when Daddy built his house, remember?
Yeah.
I built, from the same man that built my apartment. He liked the apartment. He said, send him to me, and he built a whole new house for Mom and Daddy. Remember?
Okay. I was before I was born.
Oh, well, I mean, I figured you knew about it.
So that's how.
That's how Grandpa got a new house. He had his all torn down, cost him $10,000 just to tear his old house down.
Yeah.
That's the one that had the cellar and everything.
And I remember Aunt May said you guys would pick up all the nails. You found newspapers from the 1800s.
In the walls.
In the walls.
It was amazing. If we'd have kept some of that stuff, it'd probably be worse off.
Yeah.
They used to line them, Amber, the houses with newspapers.
Really?
Old newspapers were the lining. That's what they probably used
and
it
they
for.
said it was all redwood. There wasn't a termite in the
That's
place.
right.
Wow.
It was a good, strong old house.
And they buried all the clawfoot tubs and the antique toilets all in the cellar.
All that was where our wine barrels were, and our wine was, all that was.
Oh, yeah, I remember going down to the cellar
I'll be done.
many times.
And that had a second story, but nobody lived up there either.
Yeah, it was kind of a high attic, yeah.
Aunt May was up there, and she fell through, or she misstepped and fell through the ceiling, or something like that.
But then when they did that, Aunt May and I did the patio, we shingled it.
Yeah.
Remember Papa wanted his...
I remember you and her re-roofing the garage.
Yeah.
I was a little kid, and I remember you and her did the garage.
Marianne did everything I did on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a lot of inside stuff too. That some of those sisters will never know because they weren't even big enough to know before they came.
Yeah.
But I know when I was a baby, they were telling me that. My mother told me this.
Thank you, Mike.
That Mel and I were living. We were in Cokedale then because I guess Dad was working in the airlines there or something.
Good. Keep myself.
Or Mount Carmel. But anyway, we were kids. My mother lived in Cokeville long before. Then we went to Trinidad. And then we moved back to Cokeville. But anyway, she says that I was just a little girl, and Mela had me by the hand, and we were walking around, and we got lost. And she said they went nuts looking for us because we were just two little teeny kids.
Yeah.
And so
No, I didn't ask Aunt Mela. I didn't get a chance. I forgot to ask her. I mean, I asked her why she and Uncle Louie, what made them move to Las Vegas. But what made Nana and Papa leave Colorado and come all the way to California?
My mother's house. They said that she had to come to California because of her blood pressure and her heart, and that climate was too high for her. Colorado was too high for her. She wouldn't. They didn't figure she'd live.
And this is after she had the cervix cancer and the radium and all that, and they didn't think she'd make that.
Yeah. And that's why we moved. It was from my mother's house.
It's right there on the grandmother's silo.
A lot of family history stuff.
So that's why they had to make the move.
They made the move because of her health, and
That's great.
we wanted to get my dad out of that hard work.
I mean, I remember as a little kid over there, and I remember Grandpa always on Nana, worried about her weight, and I remember that she had an enlarged heart. He was always worried that she was going to die, and he ended up dying, and she lived to be 89. But so it sounds like her health was an issue.
To him.
Well, even back to the 40s, her health was a concern.
Well, yeah, because she almost died with
The cancer.
They had, they
Yeah.
didn't know she lived with cancer.
Yeah.
But they did. They got took care of it, you know. But that's what
Yes,
the
Mama.
main.
So I can get an apron on.
But I still have it.
Now,
And,
Nana never did a St. Joseph table in Colorado, did she?
No,
the whole thing.
she did it for me and my
I
dad.
told Doug I'd
Me for when I had my breakdown, and my dad for when he had. They thought he had
Tuberculosis?
tuberculosis. I think in the That's the only time she ever did it.
I'll be darned.
We didn't know about St. Joseph.
Oh, no, it's just a flour and egg.
Now, how old were Debbie and Donnie when you decided to go to work or go back to work? Because I assume that when you
Don
had,
was 14.
so you were a housewife for a long
I was
time.
a housewife for a long time. I worked until I got married, and I had my kids, and I was there to raise my kids. Then they got big enough where I didn't need to be any home anymore. And I started when Don was 13 or 14. I started working.
Now, how old was Donnie when you guys moved to the house on Lavinia Street?
It was 1966, so I don't know how old he was.
Oh, God,
Debbie was 8 months old when I moved to Linwood. And Donnie is 2 years younger than Debbie. So, Debbie, when did we move to Lavinia Avenue?
When I was 13. So,
See, Don was...
64
Donnie was
and
what?
64, 67. We moved to Lavinia.
I know we were in
That's
the
when I was born.
Yes, when I was in 7th grade. I wasn't in 8th grade
In
yet.
fact, I took care of you a week or so.
And that house you bought from the mayor, right? That was
I
the
bought it
mayor's
for
house?
that was the mayor at the house at the time. He was a former mayor, and then he was a principal of the high school. And then they found out he was a cheater of his wife, and so he left. Yeah.
And how did Uncle... I wish Uncle Jim were alive. I could have asked him all these things. I was not old.
let him used
I
to
was
talk
not old.
for hours.
I know, but I never talked to him about like union business. How did he move up in the? Because he was just a surveyor, right? He would.
He
and how did he move up in the union ranks?
Let me tell you.
Doug, what he did was he was a pain in the ass. And so they promoted him.
No, he always asked the questions. He always questioned everybody, and they said, "Hell, we can't put up with this. We got to make him join us because he's killing us." And so he did. So they made him a part of what they were, and all those questions were answered by him, by men, the same questions he would ask.
But I mean, because and I didn't really know this.
He was a staunch union man.
But I mean, I didn't know exactly what he did until his funeral, when one of his old buddies eulogized him. But he wrote all the
I
bylaws.
committed suicide that eulogized him.
Oh, he did?
After he died, he says he couldn't live without being able to communicate.
I mean, I didn't know Uncle Jim surveyed out all of Corona.
Oh, and all the airports.
I had no idea of that.
All that he was a surveyor. He learned that in the army. His trade.
Yeah, but then like Uncle Jim was responsible for like the bylaws and for all
the book that was written, the last book written, he wrote. They're using his union book. He wrote it.
Yeah.
Because he made all the things, and many people after he died called me up and thanked me that they helped him.
So that's what he was responsible for. Like when he had the union car, and he always would pick up the watermelons. I mean, that was his job. He was.
Yeah. Cantaloupes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was.
No, his job's going to all these different places where he got them represented as a union member.
He would help workplaces organize.
He would go to this guy, the Mexican,
to help organize.
This guys and say, we can do better for you.
So he must have worked. He must have worked with the Industrial Relations Bureau and all that.
That Gardner guy, the Mexican that died,
Cesar Chavez.
He knew him well, buddies. He helped Caesar a lot. And Caesar worked with him.
So he was active not just in the Operating Engineers Union, but he was AFL-CIO in general. It sounds like he was in any trade.
Farm equipment is considered international union of operating engineers. They were heavy equipment.
Like combines and the harvesters.
Yeah, he did all of that.
That's how he got into farm labor.
Okay.
And that's how he got to know where the cantaloupes were. And all that.
Okay. Because the truckers are the teamsters.
And he'd bring them. Amber, one time we were coming home, one of our tires went flat with all the cantaloupes.
Yeah.
The car and the truck were loaded with cantaloupes. And the car and people were going by. And I was out there pumping the jack. And somebody went by that knew him. And they made fun of him at a union meeting about it
because you were pumping because you were changing the tire.
Up the car to get the tire changed.
Go north for the 210. Go right on the.
We had to take all the cantaloupes out to get the tire.
Sure.
It was a horrible thing.
Sounds good.
But it's fun.
See you when you get here.
So back to you. When you went back to work, you said Debbie was 13. That you applied.
Don was 13.
Or Don was
Debbie was
13.
older.
You applied to the school and you got in at the school. Because I find it interesting.
Let me tell you about me going back to work. I had worked before. I was working at a carpet company with Aunt May.
At the Western Sample?
Yeah, I was. In fact, they gave me her job for a while.
I didn't know that.
They laid her off. And then, that was...
that was in the, 74, 75?
That was in the 70s. Because I didn't start school until 74.
Yeah.
The schools. And that was before the schools.
George
and
Perez
these two, Debbie used to go on surge on stuff for me, for samples.
Yeah, okay.
They were kids. My kids were kids, teenagers, working in the factory under me. Yeah, they were there for a while. Then they laid off Aunt May because they didn't want to pay her that high pay anymore. And they put me in her spot. Then eventually they got rid of me because I didn't want to be there without my sister. And so I said, I'm not going to do what you want me. I wasn't going to do it. So that's when I was always involved with the summer, with keeping her involved with sports.
You like it?
I became... In the Parks and Recreation, I would have a team, baseball team. That's how I got involved. And with all my experience with kids, I went and took a test when I went. One time somebody told me, you're so good with kids, go take a test, maybe you'll get the job. So I went to the district, and I 3 people interviewed me. And they gave me 3 tests, and I think I had a 94 or 96.
They wish they never did it.
I did well, and they hired me immediately.
I found it interesting that, Aunt Mella worked for the school, Aunt Joanne worked for the school, and you worked for the school district where you live, too.
It's just, I don't know what it was, but it's just the way God made it happen. But I love being around kids.
So
you know that. You guys know that. As little kids, I was always out there playing with you guys.
Oh, always.
Always. I always wanted to be around you.
And you were always go to ride a bicycle or to, you were always into that.
I always wanted to be with the kids and do things with the kids.
Yeah.
That's why I still get a lot of enjoyment being around the kids.
I don't know.
So from the very beginning at the Linwood schools, you were always a teacher's aide in the classroom, or did you ever have to do like PE or sports with the kids?
No,
You were always
I never
assigned
did
in the
sports, but
classroom?
through the Parks and Recreation, I did a lot of sports.
Yeah.
I had my own teams for many years. I'd go to different, different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be
Ro
darned.
used to come watch me play.
What I was going to ask you, so during those years, you probably spent a lot of time with Aunt Ro and her kids.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
But none of them were in any of my teams.
Yeah.
But they were. John got to the high school.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to see her kids go through all those things too.
Now I forget. I know they were in Linwood too.
Yeah.
Were you guys very close apart in distance, or were you like a couple miles apart from each other? Or I can't
I
remember.
don't think it was even a
She said
mile.
hers was a Verizon.
I walked straight down
Not
here,
an actual.
and I'd go to her. I could ride my bike to her house.
I should have.
Many times I did.
Because I know she was right on Imperial, that busy street, and you were.
They really did some work on her house.
Did they really?
It looks nice.
Well, that's
I
good.
was telling her, really, she had a nice house. She would have.
Well, they had that. They built that room too, kind of like what Aunt Joanne had at her house. That big
Big room.
room. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really nice.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's people that got it now have done some work to it. It looks good. And they took all that, what we had around, they took all that brick wall we had, everything, they took it all out.
Yeah. Back to Colorado for a minute, or even maybe in LA. When you were a teenager, still living at home, did Nana make you and the other girls cook much, or did she do primarily all the cooking? Like my mom says, when she got married, she didn't know how to cook. She had to learn after she got married.
My mother always did cooking. My mother was a cook. My dad insisted on it.
I mean, Aunt Joanne used to say, or said that she used to help Nana bake and do the St. Joseph
We
table
all
and
did.
stuff like
We
that.
all helped her do the baking. I used to love to work with my mother and help her. I used to watch her cook, but a lot of times she'd get burned oil or something.
Yeah.
She didn't if I was by her. She would. Like I caused her.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I would be asking her questions. Why do you do this, Ma? What's that?
Yeah,
I really was always close, very close to my mother in those days.
Oh, I remember as a little kid, I always thought you and Nana were close.
I never missed a day of visiting my folks or anything.
Yeah. Many a Saturdays you came over with cases of Diet Shasta Cola. I remember you and Uncle Jim coming almost every weekend
Oh, we did.
to play cards.
I wanted to be with my folks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wish I had that.
Uncle Jimmy loved them too.
Yeah, all my their son-in-laws.
Yeah,
All of them learned to love me. Until Paul Pugrad.
yeah, yeah.
All of them had respect for my dad. They all did. They all expected him and all did a lot of things like him.
Yeah.
They did.
Now, were there any stories? Well, I guess I should say, or I should ask. So you married Bob. You were married a very brief time. After that, did you move back home, or were you living out? Or did you live by
That's when I
yourself
lived in that.
with Aunt Red? You lived with Aunt
I
Red.
lived with Aunt Red before Bob.
Okay.
That was before I ever got married.
Because I'm wondering, like Aunt Mella was telling the story about her and Uncle Louie. They went to the beach. They got stuck in the sand. Came home at 4 in the morning, and Papa had a gun ready to shoot Uncle Louie. But did you ever have any incident like that, where you came home late, or Grandpa was
Not once I was
ready to
married
kick somebody's
and
butt?
went out with No, I never had. Well, just sitting out front before I ever got married.
Yeah.
He used to. We had to be in by 10. I got the worst beating of my life talking to Joe Romero on the truck. When I was a teenager, 16 years old. He beat me up.
And you were still on the and you were on the property. You were in
I
the
was
front.
sitting on that front thing, that front.
Yeah.
My thing with front where the lawn was.
Yeah.
And I was right there. But I got the worst beating of my life that night.
Gee.
Mella moved up. He moved Mella aside and beat me with the bell.
My entire website.
Because that was a few minutes later than 10. But I was.
Well, I know Aunt Joanne said they were raised, and she laments it, but she says we were brought up this way about, don't let a man touch you, period, and very closed, very.
My dad, honey.
Yeah.
We never saw him. He was always up to here with clothes and everything.
That's how I remember him. I mean, he would never. He slept in that spare room, and when I'd come over, I'd have to sleep in the spare room. He was always in long john pajamas.
Yeah.
I never saw him in a pair of boxer
Never
shorts.
did we see my dad out of place. Never did he do anything that was
Yeah.
in front of us daughters that would make us draw our attention to anything
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
He never even touched anything or itched or whatever,
Yeah.
like most men do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He just never was that visible to us girls ever.
Huh.
I really mean that. That's amazing. That
Yeah.
because most men,
Yeah.
no matter what, when you have an itch, you have an itch.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad was never.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was always decent around us, and he expected us to be decent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody that he met.
Well, he demanded respect, and he got it. Is how I remember it.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to come take a shot with me and Ani?
Then now I saw pictures, Aunt Joanne's old pictures that I converted. You and Aunt Joanne and Uncle Paul went on an RV trip with Nana and Papa.
That was a fun trip. Yeah, too bad we didn't have you to.
I would have loved to have gone on that.
Oh, did we have fun on that
Where did
trip?
we go? What are you talking about?
We're talking about that trip when we went to Yellowstone and all.
Oh my God, me and Paula.
And Joanne
That
down.
was 13, Paula was 14.
Did you go to
What we
Yellowstone?
wanted to do
We went
is
to
go
we went
home
all
and be with our
over.
friends.
We were in Yellowstone freezing, and we all got in one. We rented a cottage.
You know, the pictures I'm talking about, you had the Winnebago. You had a Winnebago, Aunt Joanne, Uncle Paul had the camper, the Dalton camper, and you guys were roasting your ass off wherever you were. It looked like you were by a falls, like maybe Klamath Falls or the Redwoods or...
We did. I went there. Yeah, we did go to Oregon. We used to go there. My dad went with us too a
Yes.
couple of times.
Yes.
That was
And
that was
that's where
Klamath
we all
Falls.
threw up except Nana cleaned up all our poop, all our barf.
When we went to Klamath Falls.
Yes.
Uncle Jim, it was so hot, Uncle Jim had a bandana around his head to keep the sweat from coming down. But you guys looked like you had fun.
We did. That's the year that Elvis Presley died.
That was the year Grandpa died, 77. No, he died in 78.
He died a year or
The
so
year
after
after.
Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Because we were going through the redwoods and he died. My dad was telling my mother.
August of
My
77.
mother was telling him. My dad was telling my mother, "Look at Joe. She's laying on the Winnebago sleeping." She said, "Look, Joe. The trees are beautiful. Look, Joe."
Yeah.
He kept on.
Yeah.
And that's when we heard we were traveling.
Very,
About
very
Elvis Presley died. And Papa
Yeah.
was telling him to. Oh, you see what tree? You see them all? She said.
Yeah.
She get. That's how she talked.
So that was after his gallbladder surgery, probably. But
It was before. I
before his
think.
gallbladder?
His gallbladder surgery. We went to I was 5 when we went to Yellowstone.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in
No,
the 70s.
not that Yellowstone, Debbie. That's not the one we're talking about when we went to Klamath Falls. Remember, we went up
Klamath Falls and I was under the bear.
And
There
I was
wasn't-
under the bear.
there-
We had all the grasshoppers. I
you-
remember that.
Burning Falls. We went for well, that's where we went with the Winnebago. Remember when Daddy and
Oh, I
Grandpa?
wasn't with them.
No, you weren't with them.
Where with us?
No, there wasn't one. There wasn't one picture of her.
You didn't have the Winnebago until after I got married. You didn't have the Winnebago until after I got married, Mama.
Well, we went up there. I don't know what we went up there with. But we were there in
You
Klamath
had the
Falls.
Winnebago, the orange with the orange and the stripe.
Yeah, with the W, yeah.
Did I have you and Dawn?
No,
Mom,
no.
we were littler when we went to Klamath Falls to see Aunt Coral Lake. And we had all the grasshoppers and the big bear rug, the grizzly bear rug in the center of the... And Nana and Papa were with us then, and remember the beds that were
I'll never
paved in?
forget that.
Do you remember that?
Never. Never will I forget my mother and dad in that bed. Never
Remember them
and
in the bed?
never.
With the sunken,
And
with the.
never and never. They were looking at their feet. They were in bed looking at their feet. I went in to say goodnight to them, and there they were, real cute. We put clean sheets on that bed. It was nice and straight until they got in it. And then when they got in it, I looked at them. They were looking at their feet. It was so curved from all the darn hunters.
Did you ever go, or did Uncle Jim ever go back to Oklahoma where he grew up?
Yeah, we went out there to get all our his birth certificate and stuff. And he got a sister, I think, still living. I don't know. She's in her 90s.
And then I remember, I guess it was in maybe the early 80s, Papa had already died, and you took Nana for like a 2 or 3 week trip with your big fifth wheel
Yeah.
to Colorado.
That's true. And we went to Colorado, and she got real bossy in my trailer. She didn't want me to use certain sides of my own trailer and everything. She was very fussy, my mother was.
Yeah.
wanted to do.
She had the whole thing. I pulled a whole big bed for her down on the middle. For her.
Yeah.
We had a good time. Matt and Marie was still living then.
And I think Uncle Jim crashed the fifth wheel a couple of times at a gas station, or
He wouldn't listen to me. I told him you're going to hit it. He still pushed. When I came home, I fixed all that. I was the one that
you put a new panel in
I
there.
did all the paneling and fixed it.
How they got it in, I just remember that fifth wheel when you guys took delivery of it, parked in the
Your dad
driveway.
had somebody do it.
How the hell they got that thing in there, I'll never know.
The guy that they had Jim or your dad had a friend that did it for us.
Well, go back to the chicken coops and the rabbit pen, the rabbit cages.
What?
You said you used to go get the scrap lumber.
Yeah, in Weston. It was called Weston, Colorado.
Now,
where they had all the scrap lumber, where they cut the trees, and all the scrap lumber was left for anybody to go pick it up and take what you want to build fences or whatever.
Now, you said you had a cart, but was it pulled by horse or was it a car?
We had a car. We pulled it with a car.
Okay.
Daddy had a car. I think it was an old Chevy.
Okay.
It was a square Chevy. I liked that car.
And you did a lot of gardening, like you said.
In the summers, every summer, I was the one that went down to Trinidad with my dad, planted the new 1.5 acres of gardening. Yes, and then Marianne got old enough to come and help us. So she used to come and help us later.
Now, you said that, so the garden was in Trinidad.
The garden was at my grandma's place on Nickerson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
they had an adobe house.
Because Grandpa worked in the coke oven like 6 days a week, right?
He worked there every chance he got. And when he wasn't working there, in the winter, he was chopping where the ice had frozen over, and he'd make holes to find the pipes to repair them.
Yeah.
And he was sweating, and they were forming icicles on his
nose.
I was going to school, and my dad I could see the sweat, and they'd form an icicle. It was so cold out. I think about that now, and it hurts me. It hurt me as a kid.
That's like ditch digging. He would do any kind of labor
just so he could get extra money.
Yeah.
We only paid $2. Our house. He only got $17 a whole month was his pay. $2 went to the public doctor for everybody.
Yeah.
And we had to pay for rent. I think we paid so many dollars.
Right.
And then we always owed the store. It was always on credit.
Right.
Always. Everything was on credit.
Right.
And he worked so hard. My dad worked so hard. Yeah. And I used to cry going to school seeing my dad work.
Yeah.
And he'd say, "Hi, honey." And he was sweating. And they were forming icicles. Right on the tip of his nose would make an icicle. And I'd still, it bothers me because I could see.
Yeah.
There's certain things you could see as you get older, you know. You think, I already worked to support his kids.
Yeah. So you were saying there was no grass there at
No grass, and every weekend I had to clean the whole yard, sweep it, and rake it. Because it was hard dirt.
How many families do you think lived in that mining camp?
Oh, we had our little camp. Every little house had somebody in there. There was, let me see, we had that one church, and there was a priest that come once every 3 months. Every 3 months we had a mass. And so many Christmases. I remember our Christmases walking in the ruts.
Yeah.
Where the cars would go to get to the church for our one mass that we went to have. But there was about families there was a lot of families. A lot of people came to California from those families. I would say there was a good more than 50.
50 families.
More than 50 families at home. Yeah.
And so like you said, you and Aunt May would plow the field in Trinidad.
When we went to Trinidad, now this was an 8 mile away thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a long distance.
Away. And so my dad would take us only in the summer, when he could take us because we had to go to school. And that's when you get the land ready and everything.
Yeah.
I used to even go and irrigate for my dad. When I lived there with my grandma, I would irrigate for my dad and do things for him. When he wasn't there. And that irrigating had to be done. I had my other grandparents living up over the hill. And the river was in between, and there was a big, heavy, I don't know how my dad used to lift that heavy thing to dam the water to go on our little thing to go to our land.
Like a culvert or something.
To make the water come to flow over into our land so we could irrigate our yard. Yeah. And that river was on the end of my grandma's property, we could see the water all the time
Wow.
down in there.
Wow.
It was always running down there. There were always water snakes. A lot of water snakes.
And that's what Grandma Giordano used to tame
And that's
with the
what
hair.
she used to just hypnotize them like. Yeah. It was a way of doing that. I don't know if she did.
The oven. Nana, was that a community oven or was it like Nana's
No,
oven?
it was an oven that we built in our own backyard.
Okay.
Somebody knew how to build them and came and helped us build it. But I used to even hide in that oven when I was going to get a whipping or something.
Sure.
Because I'd get in trouble. John always got me in trouble. And I'd hide in the oven for a long time. Linda was so warm in that oven. My mother baked bread in that oven and stuff. But I used to have to chop all the wood for it when she was baking bread, and everybody in the camp could smell her bread.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted, and she'd give them to them. And then when they made bread, they'd want to give us some back, and I skeevied everybody.
Yeah.
It didn't smell like my mother's
Yeah.
bread.
Yeah.
They all were different, but those Italians believe that.
See, I thought that was like a community oven in the middle of the camp.
It was in our backyard. We built that.
Okay.
Just like I built on my own rabbit pens. Everybody had their own coal shed too. When we could afford a ton of coal,
Right.
you know, we could have it. I could go in the backyard and get coal. A lot of times I had to walk the tracks.
Now these buildings, they had no running water, right? No plumbing.
No, we put water inside finally, and all our fallen faucets would freeze. They put gunny sacks and everything around them on the outside. They would freeze. Our pipes would freeze. We'd have to light fires around them.
But I mean, like if you wanted to take a bath,
We had
you
to
had
boil
to-
water on the stove.
and then everybody
my
you
sisters
just
tell you any about that?
you just added more water to the pot. Whoever the youngest one was got the
We
dirty
had
water.
number 3 tub. The baby got the first clean water.
Okay.
The next baby got a little more. We had a little water. All this was from the water from in a number
stove.
3 tub. We all used the same. By the time Mel and I took a bath, that water looked ugged.
Sure.
And you know, we had it once a week. We only took a bath once a week.
Yeah.
But we were scrubbed every day.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
it. That's how we lived.
Yeah.
But that tub was.
And outhouse there. No indoor bathroom, right?
No, it was outhouse. We had what they called a chamber in the house.
Yeah,
Or in
yeah.
the winter nights. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember Nana sometimes would say you have to use the chamber.
That was
In her old age, she would say the chamber.
Yeah, it was a chamber.
Yeah, yeah.
And we all
Like a little closet, just.
I was so sick when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
I actually slid in that. It was that little, Amber, and I got so skinny I slid in it. I was giving up for dead then. I don't know why. That's why I say God let me live for a reason. I don't know what the reason was.
Yeah.
But He let me live. But I went through some really bad sickness.
Some beeping that's been going on. It seems like it's like.
Sorry.
But anyway, yeah, Amber, it was. And then I used to be the one that had to
wonder
carry.
why.
This is another thing. I was the one that had to carry that. My sisters didn't do that.
Carry the water. Go get the water and
Not
carry
only
it
that,
in.
had to empty the chamber
Oh,
to the toilet. Those are things that had to be done.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of times I didn't know my mother would bleed. And a lot of times that thing was full of blood. And I couldn't understand why it was so full of. But I was a kid. I didn't know any of that. I didn't even know about periods.
Right.
Oh, I don't even know.
You guys, Nana never really taught you guys ever about anything like that.
I taught Betty and mainly Betty Rowe, I think, is the one that asked me about
Yeah.
it, not Betty.
Yeah.
Didn't one of them come home one day after she got sent home for starting her period
And got a beating.
Yeah.
I think it was Aunt
I think it's Aunt Rowe.
Aunt Rowe. I think it was Aunt Rowe.
Yeah. I remember Aunt Rowe telling me that story.
Yeah.
She probably
That
did.
it was like a sin.
Well, they didn't know that. I mean, they used to think the worst in our days.
Yeah.
You don't know how bad that was, Amber. Everything was so strict.